Okay, Eric, I'm gonna have to start with the most basic, and you know I have to ask it. But what happened to Jean Marie Smith?
Well, obviously she was killed, and originally they said that she was killed either Friday morning, which would have been April 17th, or late Thursday night. My understanding was the middle of the night. And so once investigators came to the house, I identified myself. I told them that I had a history of financial crimes and that I had warrants from the West Coast for financial crimes. After that, it seemed like they put their radar and focused it on me. And originally when I was arrested, I thought that it was just to wait until they did their investigation. I told somebody on the phone that I'd probably be gone at our home in a couple weeks, and that was my honest thought. I thought they would do the investigation, find out I had nothing to do with it, and they would release me. And part of that was because one of the investigators told me that they charged me in Hampton to keep me from returning to Florida, and specifically said that if I proved I didn't do it, charges would go away and memories would change.
Let me ask you this. I have to ask it. Did you do it?
No.
You did not do it.
I did not do it.
They have evidence that they brought to you at your preliminary.
Correct.
They said that you were the last person seen with her. What was the last memory you have of Jean Marie Smith?
The last memory I have of Jean Marie Smith and her and I spent most of, well, a good part of the afternoon at Newport News Park. We had a good, just like I told investigators, there was nothing bad between us. We had a great day. We had a long drive from Florida to Hampton. And we had a great day. We just enjoyed, and it was a nice, beautiful day. We just enjoyed each other's companies. We both shared a lot of our own dreams and passions that became a basis of our friendship. We made it a point to, I don't really know how to describe it in words, but today it's hard for people that have ideas. A lot of people try to shut them down, and Jean Marie and I both tried to lift up each other's ideas. I felt like she believed in me, even though she knew my past, but she'd never held that against me. She always believed in my potential. And I think that was the great thing about Jean Marie. She always looked at someone for their potential, and I admire that out of her. But when her and I departed ways, both of us were doing fine, both of us were happy. There was no anything bad between us. It was just a good friendship. I feel honored that she always referred to me as her brother to everybody. I think our relationship as friends became really close, that it became like brother and sister. And I know that in the investigators' investigation found the same exact thing. And
they're going to ask you in the trial, Eric. They're going to say you were last seen with her at this gas station in Isle of Wight County.
yeah.
What happened after that?
After that, we went to Hampton and Newport News, and I don't want to say too much to reveal my trial strategy, but I can say, and I have evidence, that everything between us was perfectly fine. And although they do say she was last seen alive with me at a 7-Eleven in Portland, I have evidence from their own reports and their own statements that they had her alive after that. And I believe that I don't know the motivation. It could be the fact that they're overzealous officers. It could be something else. The more I've researched, I really believe it's deliberate, but I think they want to say that because if the statement saying she was last seen alive with me in Portland, which is near Isle of Wight, is more suspicious. If they say she was last seen alive in Newport News, then the suspicion clears. But the thing is their accusation is all based upon theory. And they've literally dissected every part of my life, my emails, my phone, my text messages, talked to everybody the two of us knew, and they found nothing because there's nothing for them to find. There's no reason for me to have done anything to her. And to me, I think people can say I have a history of crime, of financial crimes, which is true. They could call me a liar because I've lied about some things. That's true, but it's very deceptive the way they're saying it. They asked me if I'd ever been to Isle of Wight County, and I said no, because prior to the masking, I'd never heard of Isle of Wight County, you know? And then I provided a place that they identified as Isle of Wight County and said, oh, you lied to us. But that's a very deceptive tactic. If someone says, I've been to Disney World, but they can't name the city or county that Disney World is in, it doesn't make them a liar. You know, driving from Orlando to Hampton, I went through I don't know how many counties, but the only 2 counties I knew of at that time were Orange County, Florida, and Seminole County, Florida. And if someone asked me if I went through any of the other counties, I would have said no, because I didn't know it.
You're representing yourself. Now, what happened in the process of having attorneys that caused you to want to represent yourself?
I had an attorney that I really felt like he wasn't qualified for the case from the very beginning. I felt like he wasn't interested. I made numerous requests to have specific things investigated, things that were relevant and material to my defense, and things that would prove that Jean Marie was alive and well when we were last together. And those requests were made verbally and in writing before he was appointed to my case, after he was appointed to my case, and were consistent. And then after preliminary, or before my preliminary, I wrote a letter to the court and to him asking to delay the preliminary until an investigation had been done. And the day of preliminary, I was told it couldn't be waived because the court had cleared the docket for the day. And so I had a preliminary hearing with no evidence to support my behalf, which I believe was my right. And then in July, after the charges in Hampton were dismissed against me, my attorney tried to set trial without having any investigations done at all. And at that point, he made a motion for an investigator. And an investigator was hired from Northern Virginia who, to my knowledge, is supposed to be a pretty good investigator. And I know he looked at some stuff, and I have recently received a very limited amount of what he's looked at. And I'm hoping to hear from him. But I never got that until after he withdrew from my case. And when my attorney withdrew from my case without giving me any advance warning whatsoever, I felt like, one, the truth is on my side. So despite what someone's story is, despite what someone's accusation is, there's no facts that they can bring up because nothing happened. There can't be evidence to something that didn't happen.
Let me ask you this. You realize this is, I mean, obviously that's why you're taking on your own volition to represent yourself, but this is an incredibly serious crime that you've been accused of. Do you feel like you should get an attorney at any point?
I've thought about it, but I believe the law is on my side. I know the truth is on my side. I may not have experience in courtroom procedures, but I've read enough cases to know what the standard of proof is. I read enough cases to know that, for one, like at my preliminary hearing, there was a lot of testimony about evidence that put me at a scene near, I think testimony was that my cell phone was in the area of Isle of Wight County, which would cover what they referred to as the body site, on Wednesday, April 15th. And there was no other testimony of anything else that was against me to suggest that I either had a firearm, used a firearm, or for no reason at all killed my closest friend. And what was very missing in the preliminary hearing was their own evidence that a medical doctor, their death investigator, on the day the body was recovered, said that the killing happened earlier that same day or late the night before. And at my January 4th hearing, the lead investigator, Investigator Coughlin, I asked him why he changed the time of death. And he told me he changed the time of death because they obtained my cell phone records. I asked him if my cell phone records show when somebody else died, and his response was no. And I believe they changed the time of death from Friday to Wednesday solely because it incriminates me.
Now, what have you been doing to prepare for this trial? What are you able to do from behind bars?
It's very, very difficult. I've been blessed with a lot of information on cases as close to being similar to mine as I can find, and it's limited.
Where do you get the information?
I have a book, the Georgetown Law Journal, and I've gotten cases that were sent to me from an outside source over the last year and a half. And the jail here gives us limited access to a computer where we can look up cases. And so that's been a lot of my research. But what I'm waiting for and what I can't do in here, and why I have an advisory attorney appointed to the case, is there's a tremendous amount of evidence on the outside that's I know is on my behalf. And what I've been struggling for is to get a hold of it and present it to court.
Mm-hmm.
Because despite whether someone believes me or not, there is evidence that Jean Marie and I had a great day together, that we parted ways, both of us were healthy and happy.
Where did you drop her off? Where did she go?
I can't reveal that because it's part of my trial strategy. And as much as I'm tempted to say a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to reveal my strategy before I go to trial.
Yeah. And this is something I have to ask, do you know what happened to her? Do you know, do you think someone else or who could have done this?
When the police first told me what happened, I think I had a hard time really digesting it. It didn't seem real. And it didn't really seem real to me until several months later, even after I was charged with her murder. It didn't seem real to me. It didn't seem like she was gone. But when they told me, I had a really strong suspicion on who it was. And as time's gone by, I've varied whether I'm right or wrong based upon information that I've been given. And since then, I think I'm correct. I think I know, but that's just an assumption.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's pieces to find it, and I hope to do that. Regardless of my own liberty, Jean Marie deserves justice, and I will do anything to help her find it. I have communicated with the Commonwealth many times that I'd like to help them pick up pieces of evidence that I believe are out there, pieces of evidence that will not only prove my innocence, but evidence that will lead to Jean's justice. And I don't know why, but when investigators were first talking to me, up until the days prior to them charging me formally with her murder, I think they knew that somebody else did it. And I don't know what evidence they had of it, but they kept telling me that if I tell them who did it, they'll go after him, but if I don't tell them who did it, they're going to convict me of it. And one of the investigators told me that he could get away with it in Isle of Wight County. Now that's in a recorded interview that my attorney has, and I plan on presenting that at trial. And while I have strong suspicions on who it was, I don't know for a fact if I'm right or wrong.
So, I have to ask you again, you did not kill Jean Marie Smith?
Correct, I did not kill her.
What's next for you? Is there anything else you want to add about your story? I know we have to keep it kind of contained, because what we do, Eric, is we have a 1 minute, 30 seconds to be able to tell your part.
Well, the biggest part of the story, I guess, isn't about me, it's about Jean.
Mm-hmm.
She deserves justice, and she deserves that the right person suffer for the crime. The other thing is the community deserves that the right person suffer for the crime. Where I grew up, there's not a lot of violent crime. It happens very rarely. It seems like in Hampton Roads, it's a daily occurrence. And when someone gets away with murder, they're literally empowered to do it again, and somebody else dies. Now, I love Jean Marie as a sister. I know her family loves her friends love her, and everybody wants justice. But I know that just because they want justice right now, despite what their presumption of justice may be, in their heart, they want the right person to pay for the crime. They want justice to be done. Jean Marie deserves it more than anybody else. She was truly a blessing. She had her faults like everybody else, but her heart was pure. And she should be alive and well today. Whoever killed her not only just killed who she was, they killed whoever she could become in her life. And she deserves justice.
then you're going to take this case yourself. You're not going to get an outside attorney at any point now.
I do not expect so. I expect to have outside investigations done, and I hope to present that at trial.